Inclusive design is increasingly recognized as a strategy for people-centered, profitable innovation. But it is not just about good intentions, it is also about good business. This idea brought 190 people to Oslo in May 2010 to attend the second European Business Conference on Inclusive Design. This was organized by the Norwegian Design Council's Innovation for All program. Speakers at this event included business leaders, practicing designers, educators, government ministers, and even royalty. So why was this conference organized? Oni Eickhaug and Jan Stavik explain.
Knowledge transfer is a main focus in the Innovation for All program. And I couldn't think of any better way of doing this than to invite all these world-class speakers and excellent experts to share with us their experience, their knowledge, and their insights firsthand. We had our first conference 2 years ago, and it was great. So we wanted to continue to grow our experience, the network, and the knowledge. Because a lot has happened since then. But we still have the same challenges and the same message, that inclusive design is a profitable tool for innovation. With new legislation being introduced, this is more important than ever.
We were asked about 5 years ago to be an advisor and a cooperating partner of the Norwegian government. And that's why we are receiving support from the Norwegian government in terms of funding, to make projects, to get cases from industry, and to make a conference like this.
The Royal College of Art Helen Hamlin Centre was approached to become involved in the conference.
The Norwegian Design Council have attended and been part of our Include conferences, and we've been the conference partner with the Norwegian Design Council on Innovation for All. It's a really good partnership because the core values are shared between the two organisations.
But what is inclusive design? Several speakers now give their definition.
Inclusive design, I think, can mean many things for many people. But for me, the essence of it is putting people at the heart of the design process. It's understanding people's needs. It's designing to take account of the widest possible variety of people.
If you speak to me, I'd say it's a method of getting really close to your customers, thinking about design from the perspective of consumers who need the greatest help, and using that perspective to enable you to develop products that are better for all your customers. So it's not about developing niche products, it's just developing really good products, but using customers that need the most help.
Inclusive design can bring together commercial and social benefits, which ultimately benefits all of us and the societies we live in. Norway, like other countries, has people of all sizes, shapes, ethnicity, ability, gender and age in our population. Design should recognize this. Business should recognize this.
My job is to make inclusive design mainstream design. It shouldn't be a separate thing. There shouldn't be any design happening that doesn't take into account the different ways that people are, the different capacities that people have. The fact that some people see less well, or hear less well, or feel less well, or think less well, or move less well. Design has to embrace all of us.
There didn't exist t-shirts for girls called rash guards to surf in. They had to make their own or use boys. And the value of having something made for you meant everything to this person. It meant they existed, they had value. And it is the biggest audience possible. Women. Right? There's more women on this earth than anybody else. And so when we talk about inclusive design, we're talking about something that is also right in front of us. Not a disability, but the ability to access things and see things.
Government is also an important driving force. The Norwegian Minister of Trade and Industry gives us his explanation.
For much more than a decade, inclusive design has been on the political agenda in Norway as in many other countries. Now Norway is introducing new legislation to put principles into practice. We can come, what is the word? You come far with a good smile, you come further with a good smile and a gun. It's the slogan from from Chicago in the 30s. I think you come far with good speeches, but you come further with good speeches and legislation.
So how are companies working with inclusive design and benefiting from a people-centered approach?
Well, we've had the Big Button phone, which is a product that we developed. That ranges, I think, comes back to about 1998 when we first developed that. It's a very simple product. It's got large buttons. It's very easy to use. And when we initially launched it, there was, internally a degree of skepticism about who would buy this product and how big the market would be. It has been a high street bestseller since launch. We're now, where are we, 2010. We've been through a number of iterations of the design, constantly using inclusive design in there, and actually it regularly wins awards. It's a design icon in the UK.
As you might know, in Japan, we are having a quite serious aging society right now. And we have to, not just Panasonic, but all industry in Japan seriously is thinking about aging, how they can support the aging society and try to invent a better product to support their life.
We were never designing specifically for people with arthritis, or marketing or targeting people with arthritis. We were including them in the mainstream, which meant we needed to understand and accommodate that, but it was never positioned or sold that way. It's very important because that's really the philosophy behind OXO, and what we were trying to accomplish early on was just to consider everyone. Again, not segregate in terms of design, but just look at the opportunity of design to empower everyone.
In Think, we've had this fantastic project with Helen Hamlin and the Norwegian Design Council, which has really changed a lot of the mindset. And I have to say it's, for us, really important in the project that we do. Apart from what I mentioned about the urban package and ergonomics, we are now heavily focusing on the user interfaces, the whole software part of it, in the development of interiors, connectivity, and we are opposed to probably almost all the OEMs were working on an open source base. And with an open source base, different users can individualize the way they use the car and the way the car actually works.
So the first question we have in mind is that, yes, to be inclusive, we need to be open. We need to be open to people, all kind of people, because those people are our patients. And the question is, yes, there is a very large diversity of patients, from the old woman to the young boy or baby. How can we develop products, since we're not in a mass production market? How can we develop a global product that takes care of all those people, that can address the needs of that diversity? So this is difficult.
But how does inclusive design relate to the discipline of design itself? How can it support the designer?
I think as designers, we're problem solvers by our very training. Architects and designers, that's what we're trained to do. And where we fall down possibly is through not understanding what the problems are. So if we know what the problem is, we're very good at actually finding solutions.
Through design, we really need to pay attention to the spectrum of people, not just the middle. And it would quite often be a culture clash. You know, companies would say, oh, that's not our consumer, that's not our market. And we would say, yes, it is. Because you're putting products out there, and those people are either going to buy those products and struggle. Not only that, but business-wise, it's a huge opportunity.
How can we ensure that tomorrow's designers, those now going through design education, become much more aware of the value of inclusive design?
I think it ranges. I think that part of it is pushing students to see design's role in a way that they hadn't before. And that's having them engage in users, much like you would expect a business to, early on in their education, and understand that that's part of just any practice of design, and having them consider not a separate practice of inclusive design, but that design itself is intuitively inclusive, but you need to be considerate of those when you're putting something together and be able to explicitly discuss that. And I think that's the beginning of it.
What are the common barriers to adopting an inclusive approach?
people are often start off by saying the reasons why they can't do inclusive design. It's going to cost me more to do it. It's more difficult. It's very hard to involve consumers with disabilities. And our experience has been once you've actually, worked through those initial barriers, what you get out, the end product, actually merits that initial investment, getting over those hurdles. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I'd say to any company that's a service organisation that's serving customers, that actually inclusive design does offer something for them.
So what can be the future of inclusive design?
I mean, to be inclusive is a fundamental part of being a designer. So I think it's rather ironic that we're looking at it separately, because it should never have been separate. And I think in the future it won't be separate again, because once you understand that everybody is part of life, then you can never start to exclude. You can't have exclusive design unless you're designing fur coats or something. But most practical design, for the most part, of course, has to embrace everybody. So I think inclusive design as a separate idea will disappear.
So the speakers have spoken, giving their perspective on why inclusive design matters and why it is important. Although many voices have been heard, one thing becomes clear, that inclusive design is here to stay and is not a passing trend. It represents a paradigm shift in our thinking. It can allow design to meet the great social demands of our time, to recognize diversity and support communities. Our aim is that it now becomes an essential part of business and a cornerstone of industry and innovation.